Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. We are continuing our series breaking down the different teams around the NBA and the offseason that they had. Today, we're going to get into the Phoenix Suns. Make sure you do go check out the NBA Front Office Clips channel, which I'll put a link in the description down below where you can find some more short form content from us. Today, let's dive into the Suns, who had a disappointing playoff run, did not end the way we expected it to, but still stack up to be one of the contenders to come out of the Western Conference for this next season. Joining me as always is Keith Smith. Keith, Phoenix, is the sun setting or is the sun rising?
It's a good question. I like the way you phrase that. I think, let's say it's like right at the peak of its like day right now. It's noon. It's high noon right now. And is it going to be one of those long summer suns, or is this going to be, we're in the fall and winter and it's going to be short? That part I'm not so set on yet.
Well, high noon in Arizona, it is scorching hot there. So that's a pretty hot part of the day in Arizona. But then on top of that, high noon, it makes me think of the old West and shootouts and the OK Corral and all that kind of stuff, which also checks the box there with Arizona. Look at that. Hitting on multiple levels.
Yeah, that was totally intentional too. So that's good. I'm glad I hit all those things there. So you know a thing or two about what it was like in Arizona for
just a little bit.
Some time. But yeah, it's I will say this with the Suns. I think we just got to move past what happened in the playoffs, that last playoff game, because it was awful. It is what it is, but that's over. Now go back to thinking, all right, if they win that one, they probably pushed the Warriors. They probably pushed the Warriors harder than Dallas did in the West Finals. And maybe they're back in the NBA Finals. I don't think they would have beat the Warriors, but I think they would have pushed them harder than the Mavs did. And that's not to take anything away from the Mavs. We'll get to them later. They had a wonderful season. But we'll get to them in another episode where we talk about off seasons. But the Suns off season, if in terms of in and out, not all that much, right? It was they couple guys added at the end of the bench, but for the most part, it was bring everybody back, get Deandre Ayton re-signed, and that Ayton thing dragged out forever. It feels like it's in retrospect as we tape this, depending on when this goes up, we're still waiting on some big maybe trades to happen, but so far it's been the Ayton thing has hung out there forever, or did hang out there, and then. Just to clarify, in case you missed it, Deandre Ayton signed an offer sheet with the Indiana Pacers. Was it 5 minutes later?
3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It was the Suns are matching this, and then a couple days later, it was all official, and Ayton was back on the Suns. So basically, they're running it all back. But one big addition, as I use quotes here for those who can't see and are watching and are listening, is Dario Saric, who was really good for them in that finals run 2 years ago, and then tore his ACL in the finals, missed all last season. Now he'll be back. This year is kind of, I guess, the backup 5, maybe 4. We'll see what they do with Bismack Biyombo, but, it's basically let's run it all back in Phoenix.
You lost JaVale McGee. Can Saric and Biyombo make up for that, the pairing?
I think so. I think Sarge gives you a much better offensive player there just because he's a more versatile offensive player. Biyombo, for whatever reason, with Chris Paul was really good. Maybe it's that Chris Paul must have the magic touch on those passes because I spent a full year watching Biyombo fumble passes away here in Orlando. And that was like the whole rub on him in Charlotte and Toronto was that this guy just couldn't catch. And then he, after being out of the league, comes back in with Phoenix, and all of a sudden he's catching everything and dunking balls left and right. So, yeah, I think so. I think you're fine. JaVale McGee did a really good job. I think where you'd be hurt is if Ayton misses 15, 20 games in a row again. That's where you may struggle, is not having McGee, because McGee was really good in those situations. But really, Ayton's going to play 35 minutes a night, so you kind of need 10, 15 minutes ish. You should be fine with Saric and Biyombo.
Are the Suns even happy to have Ayton back? Like it certainly hasn't felt like they really want him. It felt like they just kind of didn't want to lose him for nothing, which is understandable. But what does the relationship look like? Because that could matter. I mean, we saw some friction in the playoffs this last year between Monty Williams and DeAndre Ayton. That might be something that becomes important is Do the Suns really value DeAndre Ayton? And does DeAndre Ayton feel valued by the Suns? It's certainly a subplot worth keeping an eye on this next season.
Yeah, I think the second one might be more important than
Yeah.
the first one. I think if you're the Suns, you got him back on the deal you wanted, right? They said we're happy to go to the max. We don't want to do 5 years at the max.
Yeah.
Now they benefit too because they got him on only 5% raises because that's all the Pacers could offer him versus having to give him 8% raises. So they saved a few $1,000,000 there. But yeah, I think that's probably the thing with the Suns is I think they're perfectly happy. We're going to roll back into our season with Ayton, Crowder, Bridges, Booker, Paul as our starting group. Then we've got basically our bench behind that. I think they feel really good about having him back. The question will be is this going to turn into one some point in this year, next year, where DeAndre Ayton's like, hey, I don't want to be here. Now, if that happens, what's really important to note is the Suns can't just trade him anywhere they want because for 1 year, DeAndre Ayton has a no trade clause,
right?
Because they match the offer sheet. And under no circumstances can he be traded to Indiana. That cannot happen. So, but yeah, so now we might be in a spot where Ayton is, hey, I'm perfectly, happy to be traded, but here's the 5-6 teams
right.
I'll say yes to if it gets to that point. But my guess is this is going to be one where it's hey, we had our very public little blowout there, but you're back, you got paid, let's not be silly here. You get paid over $120 million. So, he's doing just fine, but it's, you're back. Let's go. Let's do everything we can towards getting a championship.
Yeah, agreed. I think that they're going to try to smooth things over. And look, that's one of the great things about the Suns team last season, forgetting about the playoffs, but rolling into the season, they had continuity, and that continuity mattered. That, I mean, it made such a big difference. They looked like they were in midseason form at the beginning of the regular season, and that gave them a leg up on a lot of teams around the NBA. So that's something that they've kept by essentially rolling over this roster and having a very, very similar look. So I think that continuity will serve them well. Mentally, they're going to have to get over that hurdle of what happened in the play. That wasn't, it's not like they just lost a close game or something like that. That was
destroyed.
Unbelievable. I feel for the Phoenix fans who paid a lot of money to go to that game 7. I would have never guessed it would be that much of an absolute blowout. The Suns looked like they wanted to be anywhere else. But they've got to get past that. When I'm looking at this salary sheet and the way things are stacked up right now, Jay Crowder and Cam Johnson, that's interesting to me, something worth keeping an eye on this next season. Cam Johnson will hit restricted free agency after the season, and Jay Crowder will be a free agent. I do wonder if Cam Johnson just eventually slides into that starting role and takes over for an older Jay Crowder.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. Jay Crowder did not shoot well at all last year. There were points, especially in that Dallas series, where it was clear he's losing a step defensively. It feels a little weird to talk about Jay Crowder as like this veteran, but he is 32 because I still to some sense think of when he was like the young throw-in in the Rajon Rondo trade to the Celtics. But that's now ancient history, and now he's 32. So I think their goal will be let's get Cam Johnson re-signed here, whether that will be we got little news. We'll catch up on that on the news show tomorrow, though. Sorry, I got distracted by it. So going back to this, I think the idea would be let's try to get Cam Johnson signed to an extension this year. If you can get him something maybe in the 12 to 15 million annual value range, you would love that. My thing is I think Cam Johnson's going to be like, let's play it out. Let's see where it goes. Because I think he's going to want more than that, especially after they got Mikal Bridges on a very under market re-signing contract. And that's tough for, in this case for Cam Johnson. I don't think he's going to want to give them kind of that break on that deal. And that's something that's important to note. This Suns team that has been notably reticent to pay the tax is now $16 million over the tax line. Yeah. They could get out of it, but they're going to have to do some work to get out of it. That's not 2 or 3 million, even 5 million over where it's move one contract and you're good. That means you're trading a couple guys out of there to clear, but you've got a couple, potentially dumpable contracts down the line. My question for you is, did they do enough to upgrade their bench? Because that's outside of Cam Johnson, it's a little shaky.
I would have liked to have seen them do more, particularly when you look at teams who did go out there and find pieces. You look at the Denver Nuggets with Bruce Brown, even in the Golden State Warriors, the defending champs. They go out there and they get Dante DiVincenzo. Now, of course, they lost some pieces, but it did feel like, as valuable as continuity is, which I talked about earlier, you would have liked to have seen at least something else come in to kind of give them any sort of a boost. Because again, I think teams around them did do what they could to improve. The Clippers, you could say they already made their big move, getting Norman Powell, Robert Covington. So, but you've got teams around them.
They're going to make a pretty big move by getting Kawhi Leonard back.
Yes, right.
So yeah.
Right. So you've got teams around them that have been getting better, that have been improving. And so I would have liked to have seen the Suns be a little bit more aggressive. But like you mentioned, is part of that the salary concern. And if so, that's unfortunate, right? Because this was the best team in the NBA last season during the regular season. Didn't finish the way they wanted it to, but that's not the kind of team that you skimp on when it comes time to spend. This is a team where you want to spend and say, hey, maybe this little extra bit will push us over the top, but it doesn't feel like that's something necessarily that the Suns were looking to do.
Yeah, now they've got their taxpayer mid-level. They've got the whole thing about $6.5 million. So they're sitting on that going into next we're into the season with it. So they'll be able, if they need to add something. But my guess is that's going to mean probably a guy like Torrey Craig gets sent out somewhere, maybe Campaign, but they kind of need Campaign behind Chris Paul. You just need him to be the good Campaign from 2 seasons ago versus a guy who really struggled last year. The one deal that jumps off the page to me on this that just looks wildly out of place is Landry Shamit. I didn't understand it when they gave him that extension in the first place, knowing you just extended Bridges, you're gonna probably at that time I thought extend Ayton, but maybe resign Ayton. And then I don't know who they were competing with for Landry Shamit at that kind of money. Yes, they're protected on the back end of it. That's all well and good, but I don't know. That one just kind of jumps off the page as this doesn't look so great right now. So that's maybe that's your trade piece. I mean, if you got in a position where you put, let's say Johnson is ready for a bigger role, put Shamit and Crowder together, that's $20 million in matching salary. That's a pretty good start, right? To go get something that doesn't really get you Kevin Durant, but which I think they might have been hoping to come away with when he said that's what he wanted, where he wanted to play. But it'll at least get you something that you can use, or you hope Crowder bounces back and is the guy you signed in the first place. So let's not sleep on Mikal Bridges, right? Really, really good. Maybe wins Defensive Player of the Year this year. He was really close. Last year, he was right behind Marcus Smart. In that realm, I think he's going to be motivated. And then the other thing they did this offseason, a little on Suns like, they locked up Devon Booker to the Supermax extension, well over $200 million in new money that'll kick in a couple years from now. So they did take care of Devon Booker. Basically said, yeah, we agree. Devon Booker is a super duper star, and we're going to give him, every penny we can right now. So that's kind of why, let's see. Like I said, is it one of those long summer days where the sun's out a long time? Or are we talking, it's the middle of winter and the sun shines for what feels like 15 minutes?
I guess we will find out. We will find out what the Suns can bring this season. But what you can all do to bring sunshine to your lives all year long is you can subscribe to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel, where we'll be bringing our smiling faces. Yeah, you like that. And you can also follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. So thanks everybody for joining us. We'll be back soon with another breakdown of the off season. Till then, see ya and stay safe.